This 6-year-old boy couldn't speak a word until dentists discover the horrifying truth. When little Mako was born in Beijing back in 2010, his parents could not believe their eyes. He had the most peculiar face structure that made it look like he was wearing a mask, but his parents loved him nonetheless. But as Mako grew up, however, it was clear he was no ordinary kid. Although he was a normal kid on the inside, he actually couldn't pronounce any words or sounds, and things only got worse when he started kindergarten. Mako was bullied every day by teachers and students just for being mute. One day he lashed out and bit his math professor for teasing him. When his mom found out, she was horrified and immediately took him to the doctors after school to find out what was wrong with him. They sat Mako down and inspected him, but you won't believe what was under his tongue. Before I show you, I found an app that allows you to spam text your friends at max speed. Press here in my bio if you want to try too. They found this thing living in his tongue.
Facts that could one day save your life. If a tornado looks like it's not moving, that means it's heading towards you. If you ever see square waves in the water, get out immediately. These waves have powerful currents under the water that can sweep you out and take you away. If someone falls into cold water or is close to hypothermia, don't put them next to a fire. They need to be warmed up slowly, otherwise it could be potentially fatal and they could experience something called afterdrop. And this is due to the fact that your blood flow cannot adapt quick enough to that change from extreme cold to extreme hot. If you ever get caught in a rip current, swim sideways. A rip current is a strong flow of water that moves directly away from the shore. And if you get caught in one and you try and swim straight in, it's just going to keep pushing you back and you're going to lose energy. So you need to swim sideways until you're out of it and then you can swim in.
This might be the scariest thing that ever happened to America. We all know that America had a lot of scary things happen to it. But this has to be the scariest thing ever. On August 29th, 1968, every single TV in America shut down. But a demonic whispering was coming from every TV in America. Many people believe that it was the devil trying to get across some message. But nobody really understood it. This lasted for about 25 seconds, then all the TVs came back on. To this day, nobody knows what caused it or why it happened, but everybody believes it was the works of the devil. This is the scary story about the red birthmark. There was a 3-year-old boy who lived in a small village. He was born with a red birthmark on his forehead, and as soon as he was old enough to talk, he told his family that he lived before. He pointed to the birthmark on his forehead and said a man murdered him with an axe. His parents then took him to the village where he claimed he lived before. The boy said he remembered his old name, and it was the same name of the man who went missing from the village 4 years earlier. He then showed them the house where he lived. The boy remembered what the man who killed him looked like, and also his name. When he saw the man, he walked right up to him and said, "I used to be your neighbor. We had a fight and then you killed me with an axe." The man immediately turned white. Then the boy said, "I even know where he buried my body." They then followed the boy to a field, and they stopped in front of a pile of rocks. They all moved the rocks, and underneath there was a skeleton, with a wound on the skull, exactly where the boy's red birthmark is. After that, the man broke down and confessed to the murder.
Here's how to actually lucid dream. Lucid dreaming is when you become aware that you're in a dream, and this means you can now control everything. It's very fun. So here's the technique called MILD. It stands for Mnemonic Induction to Lucid Dreaming. It's the method that works for me. As you are falling asleep, repeat the phrase in your head, "I will control my dream. I will control my dream. I will control my dream." By repeating this mantra, you're encouraging your brain to be aware when you begin dreaming, and therefore, you should lucid dream.
Really weird human body facts that I can guarantee you didn't know. If you were going to very carefully cut off all of your skin, you could survive about 3 days after. If you ever have a dream that's in black and white rather than color, it means that dream's going to be stored in your long-term memory rather than the short-term. While it can be kind of hard to tell, most people can actually hear the difference between hot and cold water being poured.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. When Apollo 11 landed, it only had 20 seconds of remaining fuel. 4 months ago, a deceased rapper by the name Gunyu had his corpse on stage while fans were partying around his body. The average person wastes 5 months of their lives waiting for red lights to turn green. Cruise ships have morgues, just in case someone, during the trip. If you have red eyes after swimming, it's not from chlorine. It's from the chlorine mixing with other people's urine. The furthest part of the ocean from land is Point Nemo. If you get stuck there, you're not coming back. Sunburn are your cells dying to avoid being cancerous. Most laugh tracks and shows are people from the 50s, which means you're hearing the laughter of dead people. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 14.
A TikToker just made the world's first dog and cat hybrid, but you will seriously not believe what it looks like. Daniel is a 22-year-old college student whose dog unfortunately passed away a few months ago. He was devastated as it was the only dog he'd ever owned. But as he sat in his college dorm room getting more depressed by the day, he saw something on TV that inspired him. It was the cat dog. At that moment, he realized he could create something even better than his previous dog. So the first thing he did was extract DNA from his dead dog's ashes. He then extracted DNA from his roommate's cat, and they got to work immediately. Months were spent splicing cat and dog DNA until finally they did it. But before I show you, I found a game that's better than Roblox that allows you to play all the challenges from Squid Game with your friends. Press the link in my bio if you want to play too. This is the hybrid they created. It's a brand new species.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew, part 21. This photo shows 8-month-old Zhao Bao, who is lucky to be alive because his mother stabbed him 90 times after he bit her while she was breastfeeding him. The world's scariest haunted house, McCamey Manor, requires you to sign a 40-page waiver and undergo a physical and mental evaluation. If you manage to make it through the house, you could win $20,000. But to this day, no one has ever made it through. The little girl who voiced Ducky in The Land Before Time was shot to death by her father, who then committed suicide. Roman Emperor Nero had a boy castrated, dressed him up as a bride, and married him, all because the boy looked similar to his previous dead wife. A 46-year-old man found and attacked a 13-year-old boy because the kid was killing him too many times in a game of Call of Duty.
There's something really strange going on here, and if something ends up happening to me, I just hope that this video can maybe explain it. Okay, so I have these two mirrors in my room. As you can see, they're pretty normal looking mirrors, but I was cleaning and I had them kind of set up like this, and I noticed something really weird. Just watch. See, when you look through the mirror into the other one, it becomes like a window. And there's this huge warehouse, grocery store, or something down there. But wait, it gets even crazier. Watch this. Wait out for the moment of truth. 3, 2, 1. Whoa. What the hell? What is this place? Hello? How far does it go? Oh shit.
This TikToker's dad took the life of her online stalker. Eva Majuri lived with her family in Naples, Florida. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, Ava decided to make a TikTok account. Her videos would consist of her lip syncing to music, dancing, making jokes, and even filming with her family. Shortly after joining, Ava got really popular on TikTok and gained 1 million followers. Her Instagram also blew up, and she would pay to do ads for $150,000. The first few months of her fame, she started to get a lot of messages from this guy named Eric Rohan Justin, and his username was EricJustin11. He would comment on all of her videos just to get her attention. Then he went over to her Instagram, Snapchat, and even on her Twitch video game streams with her siblings. Things started to escalate, and Eric was in contact with people from her high school, and he was gonna pay them money to find out her personal information, and eventually he got her phone number and her home address. At that point, Eric is calling and texting Ava, and he is asking for photos of her, and he will pay for them. Ava's parents were aware of the situation, and they allowed her to take face photos only, and they thought that maybe with this, the guy would leave her alone. Eric ends up paying $300 for each of these photos, but he is not happy. He wants some more intimate photos of her, but that's when she blocks him on everything. Ava's father ends up getting very angry, and he ends up messaging Eric that she's a minor and to just leave her alone. On July 9th of 2021, Eric drove from Maryland to Florida, and around 4:30 a.m. on July 10th, he showed up at Ava's house. He opened the door and went inside, and he had some sinister plans. Ava, her mother, and her brothers were able to run to safety while her father grabbed his gun. As soon as Eric sees Ava's father, he runs out the door, and Ava's father is just waiting at the door for the police to arrive, and that is when Eric starts to run back towards the door, and Ava's father just shoots him. A few moments later, police arrive at Ava's home, and Eric is pronounced dead. No one ended up getting arrested, and Ava is still active on social media.
Scary things you never knew. The last one is crazy. Would you keep this dog if it was your pet?
It's not like when I go to work. I'll see you later, Peppy. I'll see you later.
Would you rather spend one night in this bathroom or kiss the second person who appears when you click share and then more? This man found something scary in his refrigerator.
Okay, so I just saw something moving in my refrigerator that shouldn't be. Hold on, there it is. So it's moving right there. I seen it. Hold on. Something moving. Yeah, no, I don't see anything else. I'm looking in the reflection too. I don't see anything. Now, what was that?
I'm sorry, I had to do it. I'm sorry. It's scary how only 1% of people can do this. None of you can spell your name one word at a time in the comments below without being interrupted. First person to do it wins. Before we get to the last scary thing, please support this page by clicking the follow button for more interesting posts every day. Can someone explain to me what this is?
I have a new friend!
Time to go inside.
Have you heard about the man with the upside down face? The legend dates back to 1943, where a man was in a fatal car accident. This photo was taken, and as you could see, this creepy man was featured in the photo. Then in 1948, there was another car accident, and this man was then again featured in the photo. People began thinking, who is this man? And they aren't there when the picture is taken, but when it develops, he's in the photo. And it's creepy because clearly he has an upside down face. Then in 1951, there was a train accident, and again, the man was spotted. Is he the one that's causing these disasters? Many people believe this, and also a lot of people believe this legend to be true. People have come forward saying that they have seen this man in real life, so stay tuned and I'll share those sightings.
Creepy Nickelodeon showrunner Dan Schneider just released an interesting statement. Obviously, in the past week or so, Dan Schneider has been under extreme scrutiny because of the kids' shows that he worked on, and the pedophiles that were employed and worked for him. Dan Schneider in the past has been scrutinized himself for his extremely creepy behavior. I'm sure you've seen the Ariana Grande clips that are floating around that he produced. There have also been countless stories of Dan's bizarre behavior on set, him allegedly asking minors for shoulder rubs and other things, and rumors have been floating around for years that he's a creep. Well, Nickelodeon parted ways with Dan Schneider years ago when these allegations started to surface. But because of the renewed attention brought to Nickelodeon through the new series that was released, Dan Schneider felt like he needed to make a statement on all of this. So here's what his representative had to say. I'm going to read you this statement. Everything that happened on the shows Dan ran was carefully scrutinized by dozens of involved adults and approved by the network. If there was an actual problem with the scenes that some people, now years later, are sexualizing, they would be taken down, but they are not. They are aired constantly all over the world today still, enjoyed by both kids and parents. So I'm going to stop that right there for a second. Dan Schneider's statement, his representative, is blaming us for sexualizing the scenes, the viewer, not taking any blame for including or putting this content in there in the first place. This statement then continues. Remember, all stories, dialogue, costumes, and makeup were fully approved by network executives on 2 coasts. A standards and practices group read and ultimately approved every script, and programming executives reviewed and approved all episodes. In addition, every day on every set, there were always parents and caregivers and their friends watching filming and rehearsals. The statement concludes with them saying, unfortunately, some adults project their adult minds onto kids' shows, drawing false conclusions about them. That statement should offend not only you, but your intelligence as well. Dan Schneider is basically saying that we, the viewers, are the ones that are creating these problems with the content that don't exist. He's basically gaslighting us. He's saying that we are seeing things in the content that don't exist. All you have to do is go watch the videos with Ariana Grande, for example. That's just one of so many examples. By the way, I posted them on my TikTok. And you will see that we are not making things up here. I don't know, I just thought this was an extremely bizarre move from Dan to actually make this specific statement. And I don't know, do you agree with me? Do you agree with Dan that we are just seeing things and that none of the content at all is inappropriate? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And if you like true crime content, then you should listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife, Courtney. It's available on all streaming platforms.
This 17-year-old girl was able to outsmart her kidnapper in letting her go. On November 3rd of 1984, Lisa McVeigh was riding her bike home after working a double shift at a donut shop. It was around 2 a.m. when someone came up behind her and pulled her off of her bike. Lisa was blindfolded, tied up, and pushed into a car. Lisa was looking for ways on how to survive, and with her blindfold, she could still see a little bit of outside. That's when she realized that she was in a red Dodge Magnum. Lisa was tracking the minutes of the car ride, and that's when she noticed that they were traveling north, and once they got out of the car, she was tracking the steps that it took to get to his apartment. This guy would SA and attack Lisa for the next 26 hours, and at this point, she thought she would just pass away at any moment, but she didn't. Lisa was almost convinced that she was not going to survive this, so she thought up the great idea to put her fingerprints all over the apartment so later on, police could have that evidence to arrest her abductor. At this point, Lisa is making up any kind of story she can to get the guy to take her back home, and she even makes up a story about how she's her dad's only caretaker and he's very unwell. And after a day of torturing her, he decides to take her to his car and take her back home. At around 4:30 a.m., the guy ends up taking her to a store and leaves her behind that store, and he tells her to wait 5 minutes before taking off that blindfold, and also tells her, tell your dad he's the reason why I didn't kill you. Lisa ends up running all the way back to her grandmother's house, and when she gets there, her grandma and her grandma's boyfriend did not believe her story at all, and the grandmother ends up telling the police about it and that she was lying about the whole abduction. Lisa ended up going to police and gave any kind of information she had, including the kind of car she was in, how many minutes it took to get to his apartment, and how many steps it took to get into his apartment, and this was key on capturing her abductor. Bobby was arrested on November 16th, but unfortunately he had killed 2 other people right after Lisa's disappearance. On September 23rd of 1985, Bobby had pled guilty to the crimes of Lisa and an additional 8 counts of kidnapping, 8 counts of first-degree murder, and 7 counts of SA. On May 23rd of 2019, Bobby was executed. Lisa ended up becoming a police officer and a school resource officer. Lisa's story ended up becoming a movie called Believe Me, and it was part of Lifetime, so it's either available on Lifetime, Tubi, or Hulu. Katie Douglas ends up portraying Lisa, and I think she did a really great job doing it.